What's the froth level right now in Maui for this parawinging thing?
Yeah, there's definitely some froth to it. All my team riders love it.
What are your views on it?
I think it's a great way to learn to downwind.
Let's get a little bit into board design, flat shapes versus concave shapes. What about the touchdowns? Weight to volume ratio. Someone who is getting into parawinging, what would you recommend?
Yeah. When someone comes to me and orders a parawing board, they do tend to be a little, and I feel like that with a parawing, you need to have a board that's
interesting.
You know?
And I think a lot of people are still stuck on a very narrow, long board. I think you're going to sell a heap of those this year.
You know, I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to make myself? And you know, I think I'll probably make myself. That's a good point. I'll have to go try. Now you got me motivated.
I reckon like 20-30% of wingers will own a parawing.
I think so too, and that's what Elliot's saying. You know, you're out in the ocean, there's no one around, you're on a magic carpet flying down the ocean, you're doing turns like you're on the WSL surf tour, and you know, seriously.
Welcome to the Lab Rat Foiler podcast. My name is Dan, and today we have Keith Teboul from KT Foiling, KT Boards, legendary shaper. Really appreciative of your time, Keith. Thanks for joining
No worries.
the podcast.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
Keith, we're going to be diving deep into parawinging, but before we get into all that, I really like to give the audience a little bit of background on yourself and to help them understand the perspective that you're bringing into parawinging based on your life story, and you know, give us the unedited version of how you landed into board design, board shaping, and a little bit about your sports background.
Cool. Well, I guess I was born in Madagascar. I lived there 10 years, and then I moved from there to the Caribbean. And I started windsurfing in the Caribbean when I was about 11. And that's kind of when I got into the water and loved just the sports and being in the water and the freedom of planing along the water. Fast forward, I went to high school in California and I learned to surf. So I was still windsurfing, but I kept surfing. And at that time I was, after school, I'd go watch a shaper shape in his bay every day, and kind of got into shaping that way. Didn't really start shaping then, but I think it was in my blood. And when I was 17, I basically moved to Hawaii, to Maui, to windsurf.
Yep.
And so I moved to Hawaii, started working in one of the local shops, and just was trying to windsurf professionally and make money at it. And it was difficult, but it was a good time to be here. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I started a company called Quattro, and we started making windsurf boards, custom boards. And that's kind of how I got into the shaping. I was shaping with Sean Ordonez, who was the original shaper, and then I learned from him and, on my own, kind of developed that windsurf shaping, and then that led into surfboards. And so I was starting to do surfboards, and then that led into kiting, because all these sports are such a part of Maui.
Yeah. And how was your competitive career? Did you spend a lot of time on that? Did you get more pushed into the shaping world a little bit quicker? And how did that go?
Well, I had some success competing, but it was never my forte. It was too stressful, and I didn't get much enjoyment out of it.
Yep.
I had some success, but I did more travel stories. So I would travel around the world. We would find new waves to windsurf, and we would document it. And that's how I had my sponsorship and made my sponsorship money.
What year was that, more or less?
That would have been from anywhere from, I'd say, 92, 94, all the way through 2015-ish.
And how did foiling appear in your life?
Well, basically, I was friends with Kai Lenny, and when he started, he basically brought foiling back from where it was originally. Mm-hmm. I started making him some downwind race boards for just normal stand-up paddling. And he liked our technology or our board building skills, and so that translated into making some of the first boards for him. Just the prone ones, where they were, I think, about 6'8", 6'10", with a tuttle box in there, and we built them, sandwich and light and strong, and he really liked it. And so that's kind of when it started for me.
Wow, that's not a bad start with Kai.
No, not at all. It's been cool. I mean, and ever since then, we've just been evolving the shapes and new people coming in and riding and giving us feedback, and it's been amazing.
Mm. And do you foil much?
I do. I foil quite a bit, more during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I love to downwind and prone. During the wintertime here, I tend to windsurf and surf more just because there's a lot more surf.
And what's the froth level right now in Maui for this parawinging thing? Is it a thing over there? Are people getting into it?
Yeah, there's definitely some froth to it, and there's two sides. Some people, love it. Some people are, I wouldn't say naysayers, but feeling like it's not going to be as good as the wing for whatever reason. But
yeah,
I have all my team riders love it and are into it, and I have some that are especially into it.
It's funny how some sports, like, it takes some time to take off, and I think I was pretty similar with the wing. When the wing came up, coming from kite foiling, I looked at the wing. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And look at the wing industry now. It's probably the biggest foiling industry that we have.
It really is.
Yeah. And are you on the fence about the Parawing? What are your views on it?
No, I think it's a great tool, and I think it's only going to get better, and it's something that is going to be a part of what we do.
Yeah.
I'm not rushing out to make one yet, just because it takes a lot of energy and someone who's really passionate and day in and day out. And we have so many projects going already with the boards and with all the sports that we invest in, from windsurfing to foiling to surfing to everything. So for us to make a Parawing doesn't make sense now, but I am going to I've done it a few times, and all my team riders do it, from Kai to Kane to Elliot. And
yeah, nice.
I'll do it this summer, and I think it's a great way to learn to downwind. It's going to be easier to use that tool than to actually paddle up.
I agree.
So I think it's a great tool for that, and I look forward to doing it. And I also look forward to doing it on a smaller board. Yeah. Just to see what that feels like.
So what board did you ride when you started, or where your first couple of sessions?
I was using a 90 liter Super K, which is our mid length.
Mm-hmm. How did you find that first few sessions?
I found the board was easy, because I'm relatively good at standing, and then if there was enough wind, the Parawing would kind of hold you up, and you're not really putting that much pressure on the board. Though the first time I did do it, it was in Thailand. I was testing some of our new shapes, and I had brought a 5-1 wing for somebody who bought it in Thailand, and we were using it, and it was really light, and that was challenging. I was able to do it, but it was really challenging for me because it was my first time.
Yeah, light wind's a bit
more
tough.
Difficult. Yeah. So, but also, the wings have gotten better. You're starting to be able to pump them just a little bit, so they're, things are evolving quick.
100%. So let's get a little bit into board design. This is a very selfish question, because I am now thinking about my next board, and my next board will be just a Parawinging specific board. There are probably 3 categories that we can talk about, and just your normal kind of downwind or sup board, and then something on a mid-length board, and then the sinker boards, right?
Yeah.
I think the mid-length is where this category will excel, and most people will end up there. What do you think about when you're designing a board for like a new industry like Parawinging, and where do you even start as a designer?
Well, I already had something that we could go off of. So, we took a current shape, the Super K, and started at that board to learn, to try it. And Elliot Leboe has been really instrumental in helping me understand what's important for Parawinging.
He's been doing it a lot?
He's been doing it a ton. Because guys like Kane and Kai, they rip, so they could do it on anything.
Yeah.
And he connects a lot with the average customer, and he lets people try the boards, and anybody who's from 40 to 70. I have a guy who's almost 80 that's doing it.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's amazing. So he gets a lot of real world feedback that's important for me, and since I'm not going out every day and trying it, I rely on that, and I can kind of gather the info and work on the shape. But we took that first Super K, weighed the pros and cons, figured it out, and adjusted it. And that's basically what the new Super K that's coming out here in about the next couple of weeks is designed for. It's a good mid-length for winging and Parawing both.
Nice. So
Yeah.
there's so many things that go into designing a board, but if we were to like dissect it a little bit, like if you look at the bottom shape, for example, flat shapes versus concave shapes, like what does a flat shape give you for someone who's like thinking about doing a board? What would they choose, a flat bottom? Would they choose a concave bottom? Obviously, you guys have to step down, which is awesome. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, to me, I've never liked dead flat bottoms. What they do offer, they offer stability, which is great. So you can have a flat bottom throughout, and that's going to offer you probably a little more stability. I find that they tend to get a little trackier. But again, that's just the little that I've played with that. I've always liked more contours in my bottoms. So I actually run a slight double. I call it what's it called? It's called a displacement double bottom. So it's basically two double concaves with a displacement hull in the middle.
Yep.
And in effect, I'm creating a flat that's got contour to it. So I'm creating a wider, flattish area that gives the stability, but I'm sticking with the displacement, which is one of the fastest to get going on the water, I find, from what I've designed and what we've worked on. So I found a good combination between just because the current Super K has a full displacement hull, and it's amazing. It gets going really quick, releases from the water quick, but there is an instability in it that in parawinging and in general people need or want, or it's just a good thing to have.
Hull.
Yeah, to a little flatter, and I was able to still incorporate some displacement in there, which I really like.
What about the touchdowns? How does it feel when you're touching down with a flat bottom versus something that has a little bit more shape?
Again, I think what's more important is the rocker for the touchdowns. Obviously, I think the bottom is important, but I've never liked flat bottoms for touchdowns for anything. I still feel like it sticks more. But that's my experience, and other people that work on a flat, I'm sure they can get it to work. But it's just my experience that I don't like dead flat bottoms.
Yeah.
I find that the displacement hull, I mean, unless you're going like Mach 50 and touchdown, I feel like the bottom and the rocker combination that I have work really well, and the touchdowns are pretty effortless.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of people who have been using the KT Super K, and they absolutely love it. They absolutely, I mean, Sinbad, everybody just raves about it. And
this year we didn't put the Ginsu step this year because we wanted to kind of cater to the foil drive market a little more, and we find that it works just as well. I really love the Ginsu bottom, so anything I do for myself, I always incorporate it. But in general, it works well, and it still offers a nice flat and a continuous bottom, and it's really nice.
And that step down, what are the reasons that you normally go for that? Is it just more connection with your foil?
Well, you're going to get a little bit of that, but it's more like the way the board tracks forward. And as you track forward, it releases off the water because there's an edge there and a step. So basically, it releases off the water a couple seconds earlier.
Gotcha.
So it's a real subtle thing, but I feel like it works really well.
Nice. And when you think about weight to volume ratio for, again, I'm thinking about your average rider, nothing, not pro level, but someone who is getting into parawinging, and people are like playing around with so many volume to weight ratios. They don't know what to do. What would you recommend?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't thought about it. I mean, some of my riders and Elliot, they come with these formulas and all that. To me, it's more like, okay, what's your level? Do you want to learn quickly and then transition, or do you want to struggle? Do you want to struggle a little bit more, but be at your perfect size? And I've found that I think the fastest way to do it is, get a 90 to 100 liter board. And I've been working on a specific board with Elliot. The Super K already is super specific, but he's working on a few little tweaks and
I love it.
lengths and widths to get the board really, really parawing specific. And then just, make it easy. Go out 2 or 3 times, and do that or more, and then use that one as your light wind, and then get to that volume that you think is going to be good for you. And I think I do a lot of boards in the 60 to 65 range.
Yeah.
Right there. And then if someone's like a woman or somebody who's a little better, I'd be in the, maybe the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone who's wants something maybe more all around in the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's perfect.
I like that. I'm thinking about, and for me, I'm currently riding a 510 by 18 wide, 85 liters. So basically a 1-to-1 weight to volume ratio. But my next board, I'm thinking about going to a 5.8, but I want it like I don't want it thick. I want to have a lot more connection to the foil. So I want to go a little bit wider, maybe even 20.
Yep. There you go.
Because I like, the trends of always going narrow. You feel you get that speed in the water, but the pop up with the Parawing is different than downwinding. You might not need that much speed because if it's blowing 20-25, you have enough to do more of a porpoisey kind of dock start kind of pump rather
Makes
than
sense.
Like a fast speed pump, right? So. And then bring it down to 60 to 65, like you said. I think that's going to be
Makes
good.
total sense. And I've, and in general, when someone comes to me and orders a Parawing board, they do tend to be a little shorter and a little wider than say a full-on mid-length.
Interesting.
People are asking for maybe an inch shorter or 2-inch shorter than the stock and making that up in the width.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that brings us back to flat bottoms as opposed to a bottom that has a little contour. I think the bottoms that have a little contour allow the board to rock and roll a little bit. And so you're able to catch yourself more and it doesn't track as much.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I feel like when a board tracks, if you start getting on a track and you're going the other way, you can fall. And I feel like that with the Parawing, you need to have a board that's forgiving.
Yeah.
It can't be too tracky or I think it gets difficult because I think part of getting that Parawing board up is that the Parawing can pull you, but pumping a Parawing isn't efficient. And so you need the board to give and roll. And so you can go in many different ways to get that thing up.
That's so interesting. Yeah. We were going through these iterations of this board in our heads. And I think a lot of people are still stuck on a very narrow, long board. But I kind of agree with you that something that is a little bit wider, and I think something from 19 to 20, if you're a little bit bigger in the 90 to 100 kilos, maybe 21, 22, but that's as far as I would go, I think. That's
what that's kind of where we're going as well. And I've incorporated something I call my arrow nose in our newest boards, and it's throughout the downwind range and into the Super K, and it's a nose. I've got more volume in the nose, and so what I feel like it allows both in the downwind and the Parawing is that when you're up and you're trying to rock the nose back and forth, you get more support with your front foot pushing down. It doesn't go underwater as much, and so that allows. You can push harder forward and then it rocks back further because you have less volume. So you're not ending up pushing the nose under. And so it allows the board to stay at I feel like the proper angle to get the foil engaged sooner and then move forward and then get off the water. And then the other thing that's really nice about it, especially when you're going across the wind, and maybe it's not as much in parawinging, but it is that arrow nose allows the nose to go into the wind cleaner and not being pushed downwind. And also the tail is a little blockier, and so the wind is actually pushing the tail into the wind. Yeah. And the wind and the nose is allowing the nose to go into the wind, so you can have a higher angle of attack and focus more on your riding. So that's awesome. It's a really beautiful way it flies through the air, and I think that's an important characteristic of what we're doing. Nice, so it's basically your board's a foil in the air as well. And so it's important to think about what's going on. Are you guys taking for that same kind of tail that you have in the Super K now? Because when I think about a board as well, like a lot of the riding that I want to do is downwinding, but I don't want to be going fast. I just want to cut and like ride waves as much as I can. So a pointy tail for me is still something that I want. It's going to take a lot of that stability out of the board. But how are you guys thinking about tails for the Parawing? Well, the tail itself still pulls in, but maybe not as much as the current Super K, but it still pulls in. and then we have a nice bevel in the rail, and then we have a little bit of rocker as well. So between all those things, it gets the tail out of the way.
Yeah, because a draggy tail can be tricky as well if you're just pushing the tail into the water to get that release off with a
100%.
Yeah, specifically with a short, like a board that is, you know, under your the weight and to volume ratio if you're doing sinker starts and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I think if you're gonna, like, when I do go with a little wider and maybe shorter, I do pull the tail in more. So if the shape is narrower, the tail doesn't go pulled in as much. If the shape is wider, I will pull the tail in a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't want to keep that super straight outline and have a really wide tail on something that's 20. Whereas the one that's 18 isn't going to be quite as wide in the tail, but it's going to be wider in proportion.
Gotcha.
To give the narrower board a little more stability back there.
So do you think that this kind of design and product testing, designing a board for parawinging is going to make a better board for winging?
Well, they both feed off each other. So yeah, I do. You know, I think ultimately maybe there'll be some small points of difference, but there's no reason you can't do both.
Yeah. And what's your view on inserts, no inserts? Are you giving people the option to do whatever they want with it?
100%. I give people the option. It's always like, well, do you want your board lighter? Do you really use them? Do you like playing with that? Do you need it? You know, it's always an option. Our production stock shapes will all come with inserts. And we have basically two kind of constructions. We're going to have our normal construction. It's a dual fusion core. It's something we came up with our Cobra, our design, our factory. And that's our standard, and we've actually been able to reduce the weight by almost a pound this year.
Amazing.
And then we're going to have a full sandwich, like our windsurf construction, that's almost 2.5 pounds lighter, and it's stiffer.
Yeah,
and that's for the Super K this year.
Amazing. Is that all done in the factory, or do you shape the boards?
Yeah, we have molds for all these different sizes. We go from 30 all the way to 120 liters.
Nice.
In the Super K. We have we go from 50, 60, then I go 65, 70, 80. So I have in the range that we, tend to be a lot of sizes sold. We bring the reduction of volumes or closer together. So those are going to be amazing. And then in my custom factory, I can do the same thing. I can build full sandwich boards or just 1.5 pound with full carbon wraps, all that stuff. Wow. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
I think you're going to sell a heap of those this year.
Yeah. That's what it seems like. There's been a lot of interest.
Yeah, I spoke with a few people that had a lot of orders on downwind boards, and those orders are all changing into parawing orders now.
Yeah, more for sure. Yeah, I do a lot less downwind, though I have a great range that's coming out this year in the downwind. We made a lot of advancements in that, and that just came into the Super K and the Parawing, and so it's all feeds off each other.
Tell us a little bit about those boards as well. I think a lot of people will also want a downwinding board that I think like paddling is not going anywhere. It's not going to disappear.
No.
And there's a lot of merit to learning that discipline and doing that discipline. So tell us a little bit about that downwinding board that could still be an option.
Sure, 100%. My favorite discipline is actually downwinding, and I surf a lot and I prone foil, but the downwinding for me is amazing. And obviously we have the conditions here for it. But our range is basically, we have 3 different styles. We have the surf, and those are the shorter, a little bit wider shapes. And then we have the Dragonfly 3, which is just an iteration of our last year's model. And they're going to be they're going to be a little longer. It's like a mix of a full racing and a surf, and they're all going to be 18 3/4 in width, but the length just changes.
Nice.
And then you'll get more volume that way. And then we have the Crossing, which is our full race board, and we'll have, I think, 4 sizes in that, and we'll do just sandwich construction and hollow in that board. Gotcha. So we're offering a lot this year. And I think if someone wants to learn to downwind and parawing, it's probably best to stick with the surf, a little shorter lengths, a little more width. And those are great for both light wind winging, light parawinging, or downwinding.
Why did you land on that width of 18.5? What kind of gravitated you towards that?
Well, it's actually 18 3/4, but
sorry, 18 3/4.
That's okay. Yeah. So on the basically when I design boards, we take one size. Like I take a size that's kind of in the middle of everything, and then I pick a volume that most like me and my team can all test, so that I just have to make one board. And so we came up with 7/7, and I started, I think, at 19 1/4 and just played around. And then I got to 18 3/4, and I was like, wow, this is perfect for a 105, 7/7, and 18 3/4. It all just worked.
Yeah.
And so from there, we realized that adding width when we went longer for this model didn't do anything. It didn't make it substantially more stable, and you would actually lose the glide. So we decided to just stick with one width on those and just make it longer, because the stability was really coming from the length.
Yeah.
And not going wider allowed you to get paddling quicker, faster, which gives you stability.
Gotcha.
So it was the most efficient width to length ratio.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people will still want a board like that they can even surf with, and you know, have possibly 2 boards. Or look, I'm probably gonna go 3 and have a sinker, a 120 weight, and then a downwind board. But
I mean, ultimately, that's the best.
Yeah.
So, and you know, the idea with the downwind board, just quickly, was just that, you know, if you're in a shorter period swell, say the gorge, or it's a rocking day out here in Maui and the swell's close together, you use a surf in the volume that you want.
Yeah.
You're going to be turning quicker and getting up quicker. If you kind of like to go fast but like to turn, then you have the Dragonfly 3, which is kind of right in the middle. If you're a pure racer, then you go for the Crossing, which is longer and narrower at 17 3/4, all of them.
All of them, yeah. And that'll allow you to get up and, like, I don't know, small foils that people will be racing with and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Nice, man. I'm excited about those boards. There's a lot of...
They're amazing.
When will they... You said a couple of weeks for them all to drop now?
Well, you know, Big Winds in the U.S. already got their containers, so they're here. And I know in Australia they should be coming in relatively soon.
Nice.
And Europe, I think they're hitting, like, pretty much now.
Nice.
So,
I think people will want to get onto that straight away.
Yes, 100%. And I have some of the first samples here that we've been testing, and they've been parawinging, and everybody's really happy with it. I think we hit it pretty good on this board for multidiscipline board. And even the bigger sizes, Kane, he downwinds an 80 with a paddle. So but he's a nut.
He's a nutcase.
Yeah.
But oh man, you have such an amazing team of riders that are giving you so much feedback. How do you kind of translate that, you know, feedback from Kane, which probably 100% of the people in the world will be able to do what he does, into something that you can actually put in a production board for all of us to enjoy?
Well, I think it's good that I have the buffer of myself that's not very good at all this stuff. And, you know, and I had to learn how to downwind in the last 2 years, and then, you know, I'll go parawing.
Yep.
And so that's the buffer. That's the thing. And, you know, I have experience with windsurfing and all the other products and then we have our distribution hub in Europe that my partner set up. And so we have a lot of connection to the market. And so we get a lot of feedback from shops and schools. And so just over the years, you really realize that you have to, I don't want to say dummy down. That's not the right word. You have to tone everything down and make it accessible. And then, you know, if Kane wants something extra special, no problem, but that's for him. And when you come at the riders that way, then he can give me feedback that's actually really helpful. And he gives me the kind of feedback that makes those subtle little differences. Oh, we need a little more angle in the tail kick, or the deck's off, the angle's off. So it's those kind of things that I can't, you know, I don't feel them, or it takes me a lot longer to figure it out. He feels it instantly, and he just goes, look, just change the angle here, play with this, and then the board's going to, you know, fly flatter or whatever it is.
Yeah. And so how involved is he in this, the design of these new boards?
He's been super involved. I mean, I'll come up with the initial design. He'll test it. He'll give me feedback. And then if I'm having problems trying to, like, make a contour with the program, he'll come in and kind of do his magic a little bit. And then I'll come in and I'll clean it up, because he's not as good on the program as me, but he knows he comes at it from a different perspective of, like, how angles meet and whatever.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, sometimes I get lost. And then it's the same with Kai. He'll come in and he's actually starting to design his own boards, and I just fix the files for him, and then we build them. And so it's a great, I feel very fortunate to be working with Kai and Kane and the rest of the team that we have.
Oh, that must push you guys to just be so excited to come in and just inspired to be around the energy that these guys bring, you know?
It really is. I mean, Kane's coming up with some new downwind race foils and some freestyle foils at the moment, and I'm just waiting to get him to test them. And Kai's been playing around with his own downwind race foil that we're building right now, and all sorts of different kind of weird boards for Kai. And then Kane wants this, and so yeah, it's amazing because it's like I'm in a difficult position of having to design surfboards, foil boards, windsurf, downwind race. And it's amazing, but sometimes I can get a little lost, and having the direction of the team and the help, that makes it all possible.
It's a lot to think about. You have wings and foils. God, you have
all of it. Yeah, it's crazy.
I understand why you're not jumping on the Parawing band just yet.
Yeah, no, but I am. But it's just finding the time, and I'm excited because. I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to make myself? And, I think, I'll probably make myself like a 50 liter, something like it's windy here. So,
yeah, you guys
and I'm kind of excited, I'm like, oh, wow. And then he's got this new downwind foil that he just made. We made a prototype, and I think it's going to be perfect for Parawing because it's a little easier than the 790 Atlas that we have, which isn't hard. But it's just going to help me get up and go, and then I can just let go. And I think he had one of his fastest times on it the other day. So it's actually a really fast wing. So it's pretty cool.
The Atlas is what? Is a 10 aspect ratio more or less, or
you got that's like past me. I'm not. Yeah, nice. You got to look at the website. I don't know the aspect ratios and all that. I'm not super tuned in on. I just know that the 790 Atlas is the high aspect foil that we make, and it's the 790 size is what I use day to day here.
Nice.
I'm not an amazing foiler. I can do it, and I'm all right. But it's amazing. It's easy. It glides. The low end is off the hook. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm sure you're dialing down your abilities right now. You probably rip on it.
Getting there.
So you mentioned that a few of your riders are really into Parawinging. Elliot, Kane, Kai just posted that video of him in Jaws. What are you seeing out there that is just blowing your mind right now?
Well, I think that you see Kai and you see Baltz and all these guys. They're starting to like flip with it and all that. And, you know, when winging came out, I was kind of foo-fooing it a little bit.
I think all
not
of
in
us
about it.
are.
I'm just like, oh, winging, what? They're not going to be able to do much. And now you look at it, you're like, okay, I was wrong. It's completely.
Yeah.
And so I don't have the same attitude with parawinging. And I think as those wings get better and as they develop and as we find someone that we think can actually design these and design them in a way where we can actually come to market with something that's maybe a little different or a little more performant, then we might, you know, put our energy into that. But until then, I think we're just going to let it develop and, you know, try the ozone. You know, we're really connected with BRM here. You know, Kai, we're going to shoot just in a couple days with Kai. He'll be on the ozone and Kane will have the new BRMs. So, yeah, it's a part of what we're going to do. And I think it's really going to expand. And I know Elliot, he parawings more than he downwinds, and he doesn't wing anymore. He's parawinging for downwinding, and he's parawinging in the waves too. So, and I think, you know, when I find the time, which is probably going to be next week, I'll get out there, I'll try the new BRMs, and, you know, I think I'm going to be pretty stoked.
I think you will. Well, Greg is coming out with the V2s pretty soon now.
I have a couple of them to test. He's actually letting us use them for the photo shoot.
That's awesome, man.
So yeah, that was really nice of him. I let him use boards for the photo shoot. We kind of exchange, and so yeah, it's cool.
Tell me a little bit about Greg, man. I hear he's this kind of amazing innovator, creative thinker. Like, I've been trying to get him on the podcast for a long time, but he doesn't answer me. I think he's just really busy right now.
He's really busy for sure. You know, I mean, I don't know Greg that well, but I've known him over the years because he's come in and gotten boards. He's always thinks outside the box, and he's very creative and detail oriented. And, you know, it seems like he really just wants to do his own thing and stay really true to what he does, because he doesn't even make wings anymore. It's just a pure parawing, from what I understand. And so that's the connection that I have with him, just the boards that we've done over the years and everything that when he comes in, it's always very different what he wants. But, it's gone from like a lot of volume, really square, soapboxy, but a little long, big fat rails.
Yep.
And he loves it. So, I've been fortunate enough to work with him, like that. And then, the relation just developed. And then last year he had those BRMs come out and we got them right away for the team to use. And then, I sold a few for him in Thailand and this and that. And, now he's coming out with the version 2. Now I'm pretty excited to try these. And Elliot's tried them all and said they all work really well. And he's got the more like specific, like the Ka'a and then the Kanaha and then the Malika. Maliko's the downwind.
Yep.
Ka'a's the wave one, shortest lines. And then the Kanaha has a better upwind and across the wind characteristics. So yeah, pretty cool. Really
That's
cool.
Super
actually.
cool, man, because I thought that kind of progression would happen maybe in a year's time. Like everybody's launching their V1s now, and Greg is thinking about like Parawing specific, like specific models for specific uses. And I love that. I know it's a niche within a niche. So, his market is still small, but dude, I think people coming from winging by the end of this year, I reckon like 20-30% of wingers will own a Parawing.
I think so too, and that's what Elliot's saying. And again, we thought about jumping on it, but we're like, everybody's coming out with wings now. The market's going to be saturated pretty soon, and then it's going to have to sort of, I don't know, condense up, or it's going to have to figure itself out. So, when we go into something, if you're going to do it, it's not just 1 year. It's 10 years or whatever. You have to keep developing. It's energy, it's time, it's team, it's budget. It's a big commitment when we decide to do something. So for us, we're not quite ready, and we're happy to try wings and just be, just check it out for now. Yeah. Obviously the boards will be right there.
Yeah. And I think like just going with, what you guys have in place now already, the Super K is probably doing the job pretty well right now, but I love it that you guys are doing something that will take it to the next level, will help, people get excited about jumping on a Parawing as well.
Totally.
And like when you think about the next couple of years for Parawinging, what do you see? I think like to be quite honest, shat on winging for a long time and I was completely wrong. Definitely learned from that experience. How do you see Parawinging in like 5 years time? Well,
I think as the foils boards get more efficient for that specific discipline, and then the Parawings themselves get more efficient, it's just going to develop. People are going to be jumping higher. The thing's going to be more efficient. They're going to be going faster. And, I think especially for those light wind Ka'a days where you're riding waves, it's really, really conducive to getting board out of the way. Yeah. More like wing out of the way because, but again, I don't know if they're going to be boosting as big of aerials as say on a wing, but who knows?
Who knows, man?
I think maybe it'll be more, who knows? So I think it's pretty wide open. And again, I don't like to limit it because I was wrong with winging too. So
yeah, no, man. I actually have this weird prediction that Parawinging will bring people back into kite foiling because it's their first exposure to something with lines coming from a winging background. And then all of a sudden, once you stagnate on a Parawing, the next thing for you will be like, well, I might try kite foiling. And it's closer to kite foiling than making that bridge from wing to kite. So I don't know, man. We'll see. We've seen this in the industry where, windsurfing was kind of gobbled by kiteboarding and then kiteboarding by winging.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what Parawinging
I don't know if the winging, it'll gobble winging, but like you said, I think most wingers will have a Parawing.
Yeah.
At some point, just to play with it, to feel it. I think you're a little more free, obviously you're more free once you're up. But then again, it's going to have to include either a downwind swell run a little bit or waves, until the wing, until they get really efficient at going across the wind and all that. And then who knows, maybe it'll be even more free.
What do you, when you think about the Parawinging, what do you think that it brings to your riding that you can't do with anything else right now?
Well, I think it allows me to ride a 50-liter board going downwind, whereas I wouldn't launch off the rocks or try and pump out without something to
Really?
help me.
So
No.
easy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it has gotten easier with the foils and all, but Kai and Kane and Ridge and those guys can do it. But if I go down, I'm down. So that's what I think it's going to allow me. And I think what it's going to help people do is learn to downwind on a specific downwind board.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to make that transition easier. Learning to ride the bumps, downwind on a longer board. It's going to be amazing for that. So I'm hoping that it can help bridge people into downwind on a longer board because it's so amazing. I think it's such a cool aspect of our sport.
Look, I think it is probably the best discipline for me as well. I mean, there's nothing better than going downwinding for an hour, and there's nothing that compares to that.
Nope, there really isn't. You're out in the ocean, there's no one around, you're on a magic carpet flying down the ocean, you're doing turns like you're on the WSL surf tour, and seriously, you're just like, or you go with 3 friends and you crisscross, and so there really isn't. For me, it's awesome because I have winter where I surf and windsurf, and then I have summer that I downwind, and so there's no lack of surfing for me.
Nah, that's awesome, man. And I think with the Parawing, I've noticed that in my downwind runs, when I go Parawinging, I stick together with the crew a lot more. Sometimes with the paddle, you're like, I don't want to come down. It might be 20 minutes to paddle this thing up.
Yep, true. That's a good point. I agree.
It's become more fun. I've been doing, my turns got so much better because I don't care about falling anymore. And I'm doing, I'm actually landing on my ass doing turns just to see how much I can actually drive with the foil. Things that I would be like, would I really try this if I'm with the paddle and a small foil? Not really.
Not really. Yeah. That's a good point. I'll have to go try. Now you got me motivated.
Oh, dude. And the other thing is you will become a better downwinder because you don't have that paddle to do a pump paddle and pump yourself out of a hole. So now I'm so much more aware of generating speed with the bumps and keeping not relying. Not relying on the paddle.
That makes sense. Right on.
I think it's harder to get, it's easier to get going, but harder to stay up. You know what I mean? Because you don't have the paddle. So it will create and generate better downwinders quicker if you don't have that paddle in your hand. You're just going to have to read the bumps. Yeah.
Well, you just read the bumps and you're not worried about it because you can get back up. So it's like, okay.
And you do
willing to take chances.
Yeah, you take chances, and you do there's a survival mode in downwinding that I love, that you get over after a certain point that you don't think about it anymore. But in that initial phase, you don't have anything to do anything with it. So you have to pump yourself out of it or just, and I think your brain will get it quicker. Makes sense. That's what I think, but you never know.
Nice. Yeah, right on.
Are you planning any trips or anything this year that we should be aware of?
I mean, other than just to go to Thailand and get things more sorted with what we're doing in our boards, I'll do that once in 3 or 4 weeks. And then I will go to Hood River in the gorge, and I'll spend a week or 2 there riding. And we have a new I'll go in July.
Ooh, I'll be there in July. What time of July are you going?
I'll be there probably around the 10th, I think. Something like that.
I'll be there. Are you going to be there? 14th to the 30th. 31st. Oh,
perfect.
Yeah, I'll get that.
Let's hook up, and we have a new warehouse in Bingen that we're just moving. We're moving into in 2 weeks, or in the next couple of weeks. So we're gonna have all of our stuff for the mainland there.
Amazing.
And so I want to go check that out and just ride for a week. And so that's my next stuff up.
Nice. I'll definitely try those new Super Ks. When I'm down
I'll have them all there to demo. We can demo, and then Big Winds. We work with Big Winds for all our sales. They do an amazing job with us.
Amazing, man. Look, I've been such an admirer of yourself as an entrepreneur, rider, shaper.
Thank you.
To have you on the podcast is awesome, man, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, dude, seriously, so there's some people that, like yourself, that I don't even know if you know how much impact you have on the life and the sports journey of people that are all over in the other side of the world. So Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for pushing. Is there anything that you want to tell us about yourself or KT that we didn't touch on?
No, I mean, I think we're just really here trying to make the best product we can. We're a real rider-driven company. I mean, you know, we just put on a competition at Hokipa for windsurfing, and
I saw the photos. They look awesome, man.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And it just looks epic.
The three of us, you know, the owners were down there. We set up all the tents for the event, and we're at the end of the day taking them down. So we're really a part of what we do, from every little detail to the people we work with. And it's turned more into like a lifestyle of owning this company and developing product. And I think the biggest part is just the people that we work with, and hopefully the people that we can touch by what we do and take the feedback and whatever comes. So,
yeah, man.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you're an
it.
integral part of this industry, man. Keep doing what you're doing. And again,
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I'll see you in Hood.
Okay, right on. Thank you.